have no voice, who live lives of mostly quiet desperation, but sometimes demonstrated desperation. She has a heart for the city, a heart for the black and brown communities, heart for those who are on the margins of our society, a heart for those who are downtrodden, and a heart for those who are seeking a way out. This is the era of Lori Lightfoot, and I intend to do all that I can within all my capabilities to make this era of Laura Lightfoot the absolutely best era that this city has seen. She has been a reconciler of the many differences that she didn't create, but she has the capacity to resolve, the strength and the courage to correct. And I want you to know that, again, I'm so proud of her leadership, her voice, her understanding. 2 weeks ago, on a Sunday, on a Sunday evening, early Monday morning, I got a call that my campaign offices at 65th and South Wentworth had been burglarized, and that my district director had a videotape of 8 or more police officers lounging in my office as what I assumed looters were breaking in stores in this shopping center where my office is located at. We looked at the videotape and we saw 8 or more police officers, including 3 white shirts, in repose, relaxing, during these most difficult times. They had their feet up on the desk. One was asleep on my couch at my campaign office. One had his head down on the desk. One was on his cell phone. They even had the unmitigated gall to go and make coffee for themselves and to pop popcorn, my popcorn, in my microwave, while looters were tearing apart businesses within their sight, within their reach. They were in a mode of relaxation, and they did not care about what was happening to business people, to this city. They didn't care. They absolutely didn't care. I called Alderman Dow on last weekend and asked her would she contact the mayor, tell the mayor that I have a video of these police officers in their list or no conduct, lack of conduct, and I wanted to share that with her. I am so amazed, so thankful that it didn't take 4 hours since I talked to Alderman Dow that the mayor was on the phone calling me, asking me, could I come down to City Hall? I told her that I had some obligation at my church. She said, well, what time do they end? I said, well, they end at 7 o'clock. Can you be here at 7:30? Last night at 7:30, I showed up here at City Hall. The mayor waiting for me. The police superintendent waiting for me. She wanted to view this videotape. I am absolutely amazed at her response. How she takes it personally. That these police officers, while on duty in uniform, white shirts involved, how they took such a lackadaisical attitude, a non-caring attitude, violating my personal space while looting was occurring all around them. They didn't care. But I stand here to salute our great mayor, because although the policemen in that office in repose, in relaxation, didn't care, our mayor cared. She did care. And I'm so glad to be here this afternoon, standing with a mayor who cares. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman, for your incredibly powerful words, and let me lead by apologizing to you again on behalf of our city, that you and your office were treated with such profound disrespect. That's a personal embarrassment to me. And I'm sorry that you and your staff even had to deal with this incredible indignity. I just spoke a moment ago about injustice. And it manifests itself in many obvious, but also subtle and insidious ways. Of course, when a black man dies in the street with a white police officer's knee on his neck, it is murder, but it's also profoundly unjust. And we can have no tolerance for that ever. And people are rightly outraged. But equally unacceptable is when there is looting and brazen criminal conduct, also unjust. And it really is the height of injustice when police are deployed, given a mission, and they fail to act. That, too, is injustice. Public safety cannot be a commodity that is only available to the wealthy and connected. Public safety must be a reality everywhere, in every neighborhood of our city, period. When you swear an oath to serve and protect, you are a Chicago police officer, not a police officer for only certain neighborhoods and only at certain times. That is not how it is or will ever be in our city. Now, you've all seen me angry, unfortunately, a lot lately. I was and I'm still angry at the murder of George Floyd, of Breonna Taylor, of Ahmaud Arbery, and way too many others. And I was angry when looters hijacked righteous protesters and targeted black communities. I was angry when Black and Latinx tension threatened to tear apart our city, just at a time when we needed to stand united. And I'm angry today. As a black woman, we are often told, don't show your rage. Don't let them paint you as another angry black woman. Don't scold. Don't curse. Keep it together. Be respectable and presentable. Now, my life in this country has forced me to be angry and determined to be a fighter, All my life, I have fought with every fiber of my being to survive in a world that was built to throw flaming roadblocks in our way as Black people. And I am working every day to instill that fight and that determination in my Black daughter and show her that even, yes, we have a responsibility to live our full and authentic lives, even in the face of these deeply ingrained and innately violent systems of racism. And if we're angry, let's not shrink from that, but let's use our anger to get results. And what I'm also feeling in this moment is incredible resolve. I do have a range of emotions as I stand here, but mostly, I'm done. We cannot go on like this anymore. Look, we don't paint all police officers with a broad brush. That would be wrong. And I spent a lot of time being criticized for it, for praising our officers for their hard work, for their restraint, for de-escalation in the vast majority of cases over the recent weeks of unrest and protest. Those men and women are the heroes, and they have served this city honorably, and they represent the badge proudly. But the officers in this incident and other weeks, Jack, if we could show this, have demonstrated a total disregard for their colleagues, for the badge.
Thank you, Chicago Police, for serving and protecting the right way.
And these officers will be held.
Yes, let's see their faces
This will be investigated thoroughly.
so we can thank them.
That's what we have.
Thank you,
Chief
God.
Kono of IID here.
Thank you.
And Sydney Roberts.
And they're white.
Of
And they're
the
mixed.
Office of Civilian Office of Police Accountability. This will be investigated.
Love you all.
And these
Thank you,
officers
Chicago
and
Police,
the
for standing
supervisors
up. Thank
will
you,
be
thank you, thank you.
identified.
We love you.
And they will be held.
We know who
to
the
account.
devil is.
And I can tell you one thing for certain. Not one of these officers will be allowed to hide behind the badge and go on and act like nothing ever happened.
Those are real
Not
cops.
anymore.
Fighting for
Not
us.
in my city, not in your
Bobby Rush
city.
is the one that introduced
I was
the
elected on a pledge to ensure
Hr6666
transparency and
to track
accountability
us
in
and
all
vaccinate
things,
us. Don't
and
forget that.
particularly
Bobby
with the
Rush.
Chicago Police
The
Department.
devil is exposed here.
We know we have a difficult and painful history in our city around delaying the release of videos depicting police misconduct. That is why we're showing you these images here today, less than 24 hours after I first laid eyes on them. What they show, regrettably, is that these individuals were lounging in a congressman's office, having a little hangout for themselves, while small businesses on the south side were looted and burned, while their colleagues were getting bottles thrown at their heads and doing everything they could to protect these communities. And perhaps what is most harmful about this is that for so many people on the south and the west side, the actions of these officers, the deplorable lack of responsibility to do their job at a time when the city and their fellow officers needed them most, their conduct will confirm the perception that too many people on the south and the west side were left to fend for themselves. That police don't care if black and brown communities were looted and burned. And while thousands of officers served honorably on that very difficult weekend and every day since, these individuals did indeed abandon their responsibilities and their obligation and their oath to serve and protect. We should all be disgusted And we should all feel hurt and betrayed in this moment of all moments. But let's also not lose sight of the opportunity that this presents. This is a moment to be bold. And if we don't harness this moment to rethink what serving and protecting means, we will never do it. This moment presents us with an opportunity, not to nibble around the edges, but to be bold. We're already working every day to implement the requirements of the consent decree, but that's not enough. But now, in this moment, it's time for us to fully implement the recommendations of the Police Accountability Task Force more than 4 years ago that have languished. Now is the moment to be honest about the ways in which the Fraternal Order of Police contract has been holding back the necessary change and reform that we must bring to make this police department fully accountable to the residents of this city. And now is the time to act on licensing for police officers once and for all. I'm here to tell you today that I have directed my legal team to do the research and to draft the legislation. I am ready to work with the governor and our other great partners in Springfield to forge a change in state law to require licensing and certification of police officers. And I'm grateful for the attendance of Brad Cole, the leader of the Illinois Municipal League, and we will work together to make sure that we get this legislation passed. It's time, really, actually, it's way past time for this change in our state. And licensing is just one of several new measures that we must institute to make individual officers and departments far more accountable to the people. We have a long road and a hard road ahead. And none of these things is going to happen overnight. But I am grateful to have such a principled, focused partner in Superintendent Brown. He gets it. He's not afraid, and neither am I. And together, we want to be clear. You're not serving or protecting anybody when you're shouting a derogatory slur or gesture at them. You're not serving or protecting when you pull people out of their cars, by their hair, and beat the daylights out of them in the street. You're not serving or protecting when you make movie popcorn and put up your feet and lounge while your fellow officers are down the street getting the hell beaten out of them and doing what they swore an oath to do. So today, yes, we are angry, but we're also resolved, and we are committed. And we may not be perfect in all of our efforts from this moment forward, but we were seizing on this moment to finally make the changes that many thought were too politically sensitive or infeasible, or too big or too bold. The time for excuses is over. Our people are impatient, and rightfully so. I want to thank again the Congressman for his generosity of heart, for his lifelong journey to root out injustice, and I commit to being his partner in his quest. And with that, I'd like to ask Superintendent Brown to come to the podium.
Thank you, Mayor. And let me echo the Mayor's sentiment to Congressman Rush. Thank you so much. And a personal apology to you for the actions of these officers from me. Let me start by sharing my comments with our commanders earlier this morning regarding this incident. I started out by saying what I truly believe is universally true in policing and beyond, that behavior reflects leadership. Always. It's a hard truth to take when you're a leader, that you're responsible for the behavior of others. And we had an exchange about consequences for this type of behavior that we've seen, not just what happened at the congressman's office, but the other behavior, the officers giving the finger, homophobic slurs, excessive force. That behavior reflects our leadership. Officers asleep during a riot with supervisors in tow reflects our leadership.
That's great.
A few commanders I had to cut off because they began talking about us being too harsh. And when he said us, I said, you mean me being too harsh by relieving officers of their police powers. My rebuttal was, it's time for you to stop talking. Our words are cheap when we defend officers for their misconduct. That the integrity of the Chicago Police Department is far more important than any individual's officer's friendship with you or family relationship with you. Our integrity to the residents of Chicago is our number 1, 2, and 3 priority. That we are in a seminal moment, that we have to reveal our leadership. If that means strict discipline, that's what it means. We are determined. When I was raised by a Southern mother, a mother from the South. And even as an adult, my mother would look at me when I was doing something that didn't represent the family well. And she would want me to look at her to see her expression when she told me, I'm not playing with you. When I was misbehaving or doing something not representative of the family. And so I shared with the commanders this morning, I'm a Norma Jean Brown son. And I'm not playing with you. That I mean what I say when I say we're going to hold you accountable. And that your behavior reflects my leadership. And it reflects all of your leadership. Move, get out of the way. But we are going to uphold the nobility of this profession. We're going to reveal our leadership. And we will be accountable to the Chicagoans that deserve a department that they can be proud of. That this conduct is not representative. But if it's not, let's do something about it. Let's just quit talking about they're good officers, that we did a good job, and that these are few bad apples. Let's now be the good cops who hold the bad cops accountable by rooting them out of this profession. Period. No question mark. No gray area. This kind of conduct means if you sleep during a riot, what do you do on a regular shift when there's no riot? What are you doing when there's no crisis? And what makes you comfortable enough that supervisors won't hold you accountable? That means sergeants, lieutenants, commanders, chiefs, deputy chiefs need to step up or step out. I'm not playing.
Good afternoon. I'm Anthony Riccio. I'm the first deputy superintendent. So I'm up here with no notes, no script, because I don't need to script this. This is indefensible. What we saw there is absolutely indefensible. And I'll share with you a story. So I was out there, as was Chief Waller, as was the rest of the department. And the same time that these 13 officers were popping popcorn, taking a nap, relaxing inside this office, I was standing shoulder to shoulder with hundreds of other officers on State Street as we got pelted with rocks from rioters. I was hit in the leg. The officer standing next to me, part of my security detail, was hit in the head, hit in the helmet. Fortunately, he had his helmet on by the rocks. And that's occurring at the same time while these guys are inside having popcorn and making a pot of coffee. It is completely indefensible. And I'm the first one to jump up and defend officers. When I think they've done something right and they're improperly accused, I will defend them 100% of the time, and they know it. This is indefensible. There was a commander out there with me, the commander of the 24th District. She had lost her helmet when she was engaged with some of the protesters. And she stood there with no helmet, no face protection, as they were throwing rocks at her. And I finally had to tell her to go behind a protective barrier because the rocks were big rocks being thrown at us, being whizzed at us. And I had to pull her off the line and put her in a protected area. That's all going on at the same time these 13 guys are making popcorn, taking a nap on a couch, and drinking a pot of coffee. So it is absolutely indefensible. I agree completely with the mayor and with the superintendent that it has to be addressed, and it has to be addressed firmly. They didn't just let down the citizens of the city. They didn't just let down the people in that community, and they did. They also let down their fellow officers who are on the street fighting that battle to try to keep the city safe and to stop it from burning. We had 120 officers injured that night that they sat there. We had 167 vehicles damaged or completely destroyed the night these officers sat there, and countless businesses damaged and looted the same time that these officers sat there. So we're going to identify the officers involved, and there's going to be sure and swift discipline. Absolutely, there needs to be, and we're going to address it, and we're going to make sure something like this doesn't happen again, because as I said initially, it is absolutely indefensible.
Thank you, Chicago cops.
I'd like Chief Waller.
First, I just want to say, I've been a policeman for 34 years, and I've never been as embarrassed as I am right now. As I first said, out there all day, all night, to the early morning, standing shoulder to shoulder with the officers, all the things that we saw. I'm not even going to go through that, and it seems like that tarnishes. This incident tarnishes all those acts and those works that those officers did. To say I'm angry, disgusted, doesn't really express. It can't begin to express how I feel. I've never seen anything like this in my 34 years. These officers did nothing to help their fellow officers. They did nothing to help these citizens. I know that mall. I've known the congressman. Did nothing to help anyone in those instances. Stood by and just did nothing. Their supervisors should be even held to a higher and will be held to a higher standard. They failed to live up to the standard, the integrity that we have as policemen on that day, in that instance. We don't want to smear all the good work, but how can we not look at this and say this is something that must be widespread, and we have to address it, as the first said. To continue to work hard every day is what we're going to continue to do. We're not going to give up this fight. We're going to continue to build. We're going to address this instance, identify these officers, identify those supervisors, and we're going to continue to get through these challenging times. We cannot allow this attitude to exist within our department. We can't allow all the good works that officers have done to be smeared by this incident, but we still have to address it. We must address this. It must be something that we continue to look for and make sure that we address these type of incidents. I'm just going to close by saying I feel that these officers, I've always been an advocate for officers, for the good works that they do. This just cannot be pushed aside. It cannot be handled gently, and they let the entire city and the department down.
We'll take your questions at this time.
Mayor, thank you. Can we go over just a couple of the details of the timetable? First of all, was the office burglarized by someone else?
Yes.
And so,
So let me just, if I can, recap for you. My understanding from the congressman is the looting in that particular plaza started, but I believe much earlier in the day, late morning at the latest, and it carried on throughout the day. I believe that the videotape, and again, we're still going through the details, but the videotape, I believe, picks up at about 1 a.m. And my understanding is that the officers were there 4 or 5 hours, possibly longer. And you'll see when we're able to get the video fully downloaded and processed, that they came in and out. It was a small core group initially, and then its height, it was about 13 officers, 3 white shirt supervisors, and 10 other officers.
and so this was Sunday, 31st.
So this was actually, Monday, June 1st.
Okay, Monday, June 1st. And when you say white shirts, do you know yet what rank?
We do not yet, but that work is ongoing. The congressman was generous enough with his chief to come down and show us the videotape last evening. After that, the work started through Chief Kono of IAD to start the process of identification, and that work is ongoing.
Has anyone been identified?
There's been tentative identifications, but I don't want to go any further until we know for certain. But here's what I'll also say. Can we put up the photo of the large group shot? You know who you are. You know what you did. Don't make us come find you. Come in, identify yourselves, but we will find you.
What do you hope happens to these officers?
Well, clearly, I believe that they tarnished the badge. Everything that the command staff members have said. You know, I asked last night when we were all assembled looking at these pictures and videos, is there anything that could even remotely be defensible here? And to a person, each one said no. You know, as you heard, looting was going on, buildings were being burned, officers were on the front lines, truly taking a beating with rocks and bottles and pipes